So there's a report out from the New York Times today that Al-Qaeda is re-emerging in Afghanistan. So now you have a situation where in the eastern part of Afghanistan, there are some pockets that are ISIS pockets. So ISIS is somewhat active in Afghanistan. In fact, we covered a story on that recently where Vice somehow embedded with the ISIS cells in Afghanistan, and you saw how they were teaching kids and all this crazy stuff. So you have some ISIS people there. Obviously, you have the Taliban is very active in Afghanistan. And now you also have Al-Qaeda reemerging. So, failure? I don't know what else to say about this. We've been there this entire time. Let's not forget that. Like, because you're going to hear a bunch of idiots now say, well, that means we got to go in and do war. We should declare war against Afghanistan. Well, we did. We've been there ever since 2001. And now there are more jihadists there from all different factions. So using this thing called, what is it again? Logic, your strategy didn't work. In fact, it was the opposite of working. It just failed. It had the opposite of the desired effect. It's like the war on drugs, how they say, our goal is to eliminate or limit use of drugs and the sale of drugs. And then what happened? We wasted $1 trillion. 60,000 people died in a literal drug war. And now more people are doing drugs. And there's more drug sales. See, that's what we call a failure. That means you suck at politics and policy. So, again, just keep that in mind as the hawks come out of the woodworks and are like, see, this proves us right, even though it proves us wrong. Let's ground invade and do more. So, let me give you exactly what they say. Quote, even as the Obama administration scrambles to confront the Islamic State and a resurgent Taliban, an old enemy seems to be reappearing in Afghanistan. Al-Qaeda training camps are sprouting up there, forcing the Pentagon and American intelligence agencies to assess whether they could again become a breeding ground for attacks on the United States. Most of the handful of camps are not as big as those that Osama bin Laden built before the September 11th attacks, but had they reemerged several years ago, they would have rocketed to the top of potential threats presented to President Obama in his daily intelligence briefing. Now they are just one of the many, and perhaps American officials say not even the most urgent on the Pentagon's list in Afghanistan. The scope of Al-Qaeda's deadly resilience in Afghanistan appears to have caught American and Afghan officials by surprise. So not only is this a failure when it comes to policy, it's also a failure when it comes to intelligence. Because they're like, ha! Would you look at that? Al-Qaeda's back. Doesn't that suck? Now, let's dig deeper here because there's so many assumptions that Washington rests on that are just not true. So, again, they're all going to be convinced that, like, if we don't go in there and do more, well, gosh golly, it's going to get worse, even though, again, us getting more involved has made it worse. So I want to quote, don't take my word for it, I want to quote the head of Al-Qaeda, who released a video message not that long ago, specifically in response to or referencing what's happening in Syria, more so than anywhere else, but the message still applies. Listen to what Zawahiri said, quote, "We must unite to reject disputes and suspend fighting between the Mujahideen." All right, let's pause here. So again, he's referencing that all these factions are fighting. Al-Qaeda and ISIS are fighting. ISIS is a branch off of Al-Qaeda in Iraq. And he's like, no, we got to stop fighting. We got to stop fighting. Why? Why would he say that? Why would he want to stop fighting the people who are his sworn enemy? Why would they want to stop? ISIS want to stop fighting the Taliban, for example. Why does he want them to stop fighting? It doesn't make sense, right? Well, he continues. "The Americans, Russians, Iranians, Alawites, and Hezbollah are launching its war against us. Did we fail to stop fighting amongst us to direct all our efforts against them? The Mujahideen must not waste their efforts killing each other while the Crusaders are united." Let me repeat that. The Mujahideen must not waste their efforts killing each other while, keyword, while the Crusaders are united. So in other words, yeah, bitch, we're going to fight you because you're here. If you're not here, what are they going to do? They're going to turn on each other and continue to fight each other. They're telling you. All these top intelligence guys are like, well, let's try to read between the lines here and figure out what's happening. Meanwhile, the top Al-Qaeda guy's like, we're gonna fight you because you're here. I see you. If you take them away, what are they gonna do? How can he release a message telling people to unite against the Crusaders if the Crusaders ain't there? You know what's gonna happen? They're gonna turn on each other like they already have, and they're gonna continue fighting each other. You're gonna have ISIS fighting the Taliban fighting ISIS, Al-Qaeda fighting ISIS. The Taliban and Al-Qaeda usually had a truce where Al-Qaeda was protected by the Taliban. This was back during the early 2000s. But they're gonna turn on each other, and they're gonna continue to fight each other. But, I mean, it's the same thing over and over, man. They don't learn. They don't get the lessons of history. Now, don't get me wrong. Am I saying, hey, if you do nothing, literally all jihadists will be gone? No, absolutely not. That's ridiculous. I think somebody should fight them, but I think the people who should fight them are the people that are there, the people that are in the region, the people who are more directly threatened. The Shias, for example. I mean, he references them here too. The Shias are fighting the Sunnis. Other Kurds are fighting the Sunni extremists. The Kurds are Sunnis, but they're moderate Sunnis. So let them in the region handle it. The head of Al-Qaeda is telling you, hey, we're going to fight you because you're here. We need to be united against you. Well, if we're not there, they can't be united. They're going to fight each other. And again, for those of you who would say, well, that's not a good analysis, the burden is on you to explain how it is that we've done your policy of military aggression, boots on the ground, airstrikes, all-out war since 2001, and the problem isn't fixed. The problem has gotten worse. That part is not an opinion, that's fact. So the burden's on you to prove how reality is not reality, which you can't do. So maybe we should try the other approach.